Good morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from EPARTRADE, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, Feria, PIC, Fifth Third Bank Motorsports, Crower, and CTEC Manufacturing. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of EPARTRADE, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 539, and we're going to be talking driver safety with engineered safety system. With me this morning are Judy Keane, the co-founder of EPARTRADE, and a wonderful host, Mr. Jeff Hammond. Judy?
Thank you, Francisque, and thank you everyone for joining today. I know we have a lot of new guests, a lot of sanctioning bodies, a lot of professional race teams. So this is an exciting morning for you. I just wanted to remind you, if you have yet to sign into this performance and racing destination, please do so. We created this for the industry to use. You're going to see companies like ESS showcasing, similar to exhibiting, but we're all year long. So please sign in. Jeff?
Yeah, please sign in. And again, get a chance to explore the world, talking about the world, folks, of what racing and all the products and all the companies that keep this industry rolling right along. Yeah, we're very blessed today, folks, because I've had an opportunity to know Trevor for a long time. And he is committed pretty much his entire life and career to making racers safe. And I'm really excited about today getting a chance to join in on this little webinar because I had wanted to do it. And he also drug in a friend of mine. I use that term very, very loosely. Hi, Mr. Brad.
How you doing there, Jeff? How you been?
You realize, Brad Noffsinger, that you kept Brad Gilley from being on the show today. We couldn't have two Brads on the same show.
Well, it works for me. I'd rather see you anyway right at the moment, buddy. It's been a long time.
Well, I'm real excited, like I say, to be here. Trevor and I had a chance to speak a little bit earlier. And, I think you guys are doing wonderful work. You've been doing wonderful work your entire careers. And I'm just excited that we here at EPARTRADE get an opportunity to pick your brain and realize what you're in the same lane. I think you're traveling at a different speed. What do you think, guys? A little faster than the rest of the competition, maybe? Trevor, I'm gonna give the floor to you. How about that? You got your volume turned up, microphone turned on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hey, there you are.
There I am.
We're supposed
Sorry, I
to
was
use
just hiding in the
Brad. We're
background.
supposed to have the off switch on Brad, not on you.
That's all good. Thanks. Okay, so happy to be here. Thank you guys for giving us this opportunity to basically introduce my new company. This is a new venture for me. So with that, I'll share. If you can, I'm going to share my screen, right? And
yeah, you got a little PowerPoint presentation. And again, folks, for those of you who may not know Trevor, again, he's been around the sport since forever, really the 2000s. And Brad is a longtime racer, competitor. What I love about Brad more than anything else is, he also is a stunt man. But I think, Trevor, when you think about it, he's also been a crash dummy a time or two. So I'm really
that's what we like about Brad.
Yeah, got a chance to talk to somebody who's been through the wars.
Yeah, I've definitely tested some of Trevor's equipment in the last few years.
Right. So with that, we'll get going. Basically, what I've done is I've restarted a company. What I'm basically known for here is testing, product development, and education. And I really think that the education part of it is just as important as the other two, because you can spend all the time you want in a test lab and develop all kinds of products, but if you can't educate your customers about what it is or why they would use these products, it's no good. So throughout my entire career, I've tried to bring that to people, like with NASCAR, with ARCA, with NHRA. So to me, that's a really big part of the new company also. So with that, I can just introduce myself. I'm 8 years in Detroit as a restraint engineer, working on passenger cars. That's where I really learned how to use the test lab and what restraints are all about and how they worked. So then in 2001, that's really where I had met Jeff Hammond, like the Friday before, I think. Dale died. We had been working on a bunch of different safety products in the background through a company called Autoleave. And we had the opportunity to work on the Earnhardt investigation, mostly because we already had data. We already had a sled set up. So we were really the only ones in the country that were able to go immediately into testing, like within a couple of weeks of the accident. So we're trying to figure out what had happened. I came up with a company called Safety Solutions back in that era. And I was doing head restraints right from the start. Did Hutchins device way back in 2001. Had two of them in the Daytona 500 that Dale died in. One was on Stacy Compton, and the other one was on Mike Skinner, and teammate to Dale Earnhardt in that race. But unfortunately, we missed the one key guy. So then in 2010, I sold my company to Simpson, and I worked for them for the last 14 years, further developing the hybrid and Hans head restraints. Basically did the Hans 0, Hans 3 and 4, Platinum Plus series of belts, nets, accessories, really trying to make that full cockpit, full surround, everything you need in the cockpit, right? So now I've just restarted Engineered Safety Solutions, design, production, consultations, head restraints, seat belts, and head surrounds right now. And throughout all this, I've got 21 US patents on restraints, plus European and Australian and Japan, but basically overlapping patents, right? And here's our buddy, Brad. Brad and I actually go back a long ways. I met Brad in about 2002, I believe. We were talking about it the other day, and this is a picture of Brad on the left in a sprint car back in that era. And we're going to go over that later. It just shows you how close we really were back then to what you really should have. You know, it's been pretty consistent. And Brad has been our test restraint driver.
I'm glad you didn't call me a dummy.
I know. I was going to.
I will.
I spared you.
You had to be a dummy to do some of that stuff.
So, Brad, I'll
here's a
let you
good
set
video.
this one up. Yeah, I'll let you set this one up. Go ahead and tell us what's going on here.
There's a lot of things going wrong with this picture. I showed up at the racetrack without a ride. A good friend of mine gave me a ride, and a guy named Irish Saunders from Hoosier came over to me before qualifying and said, "Hey, you're pretty quick already out of the box. What do you think about, a new track record for us? Goodyear has it." And I said, "I don't think it'll be a problem. I think we're that quick." Well, the thing that I got complacent on is I was sitting in a seat that fit a guy twice my size. I didn't have a head and neck restraint on. I didn't have arm restraints on. I just showed up and got back in the race car, and I hadn't been in a sprint car in probably 4 or 5 years. And the very first lap of this accident, I set a new track record. And then going down the back straightaway, I thought there was a little more left in me, and things come unraveled after that. And that's the one and only time in my career that I've been hurt that bad and not had a broken bone. I hit my head on everything there was to hit in the car. And I think I remember after I came to a couple of weeks later when Trevor and I were talking, and it was like, "Why didn't you have your stuff on?" I knew better. I just got complacent and then I'm hurting myself. So Trevor and I, we've gone a long ways with the safety of sprint car racing, high back seats, headrests. I'm still a little old school. There's some things that I don't like in my way, but I do wear the head and neck restraint and the arm restraints going forward.
Cool. Good deal. So basically what we want to do here is show you guys what happens to you in a wreck. So this is part of my education side. I imagine that everybody that's in a race car should at least know what you're in for. It's not to scare you out of driving a race car. I mean, I'm definitely not about people slowing down. I mean, I grew up in racing all my life. I know that racers go faster, and our job is to make sure that you can go faster, but you can still get in that holler on the way home that night and, have that discussion on the way home with everybody in the holler. I think that's like the coolest thing in all of racing, right? It's that camaraderie. So with that, we'll move on to the next ones. This is a cup car chassis or full car that I did back in about 2000. But the point of this whole thing is I want to show you how much the occupant actually moves in a crash. This right here was a 60 miles an hour into a full concrete barrier. I'm going to slow it down here. And as you can see, this is where the wreck is just initiating. His back right here is already off the back of that seat. He's moving forward. His head's still straight up. He is on his way. And he's going to bury his head right into that wheel. If I can get this thing to, there we go. Okay, so he comes forward. His shoulders are now at least, what, 15, 16 inches off the back of that seat right here. These are all
At least.
5-point belts. At the time, they were nylon because this was done in 2000. They were mounted exactly the way they would have been in any stock car at the time and in some stock cars even today. But this just shows you how far you move. When I tell people sit in your race car and reach your arm out as far as you can, at the end of your fingertips is where your head will be. This is what I'm talking about. Even with today's systems, where obviously we can keep you in the seat a little better than this, but this is the point is you will be going a long ways away from that seat. And then as we come to the end of the crash, look what happens. You're coming to the back side of the seat with your head. I think this is part that a lot of the folks don't understand about frontal impacts. I've been around drag racing quite a bit, and especially in the just lately in the last year, we've had some issues. And one of the points that I get from the teams is, why would I put more padding in the headrest in the backside of my head? And this is exactly why right here, because you're always going to come back into that seat. And you can see that he's hitting the back of this seat, which at the time had not a whole lot of padding either, pretty hard, almost as hard as you're going to go out. So again, one more time, you're going out, you stretch everything out, you bottom your head out in the wheel. Now there's belts pull you back and you go slamming back into the seat. So then what we did from the information from the barrier, we got an actual sled pulse. It's how does the car crush? So then what we can do is we can take that information and put it into the high G sled, and it'll push back on this smaller scale sled that you use repeatedly, so that you don't have to crash cars every time you're trying to do a simple head restraint test, right? So this was a baseline that we did back in that same era also. Just notice how far he's going with his head's going, his shoulders off the back of that seat. This is only a 45 G impact. So the head's going into the wheel, the shoulders past the end of the shoulder on the seat. I mean, just look how far you're coming out. This is normal. This is not an abnormal thing. Here's the side impact, the same type of deal. At the time, it was in a cup car and it was mounted the way we mounted seats in cars. And in this one, the seat completely came off ripped all the mounts out. So he's actually outside of the car, which in that era, there was a number of drivers that both hit their heads on the top bar as the dummy's doing right now, going in and out, and also hit their heads on the walls. So all of this stuff got changed in the Earnhardt investigation. So this is a IndyCar, same kind of thing, all belted in. At this time, it was we were using a really heavyweight 3-inch polyester webbing, 6-point. Is part of a study that we did back in 2002 and 3. But again, you'll see just how far he's coming. his head definitely is farther away than those fingertips, right? If you're reaching forward from that seat in that tub, you can grab that wheel, but that's about it. And he goes all the way to the wheel. So these are the lessons that we learned in the beginning. We said, okay, so this is what's happening. What are we going to do? So basically, the idea here is, how do we keep people alive in high-speed impacts, right? It's good systems. If everything is correct, you can get through 70G, 80G, 90G impacts. We've done it for the last 20 years. It's just a matter of how good is your system, right? And one of the biggest things that I found is this last one right here, number 5, attention to detail. It's always the littlest things that will catch you out. From where the lap belts are mounted to the where the shoulder belts are, to the foam that you didn't put somewhere, to the, there's a list. There's a whole list of a proper setup, and it's really all about the detail. So what we did is take a look at what are the important parts, right? So most people die in a racing accident from head injury, head and neck injuries. So that's the most important thing that we started to take care of in the first place. Belt systems, they help keep you in the seat. They help keep your body back and coupled to the car. That's what you're trying to do. And a seat system is the same way. You're trying to be coupled to the car and rear and side impacts using that seat. The idea about this is, if we can ramp you up, if we can keep you tighter to the car, we're going to ramp you up to an acceptable load, and then we're going to ride that crash out for the entirety at that load and bring it down. That's the best scenario that we can do for you. If we don't get early intervention with the seat belts, the seat, the head restraint, what happens is you just keep building up speed versus the car. At some point in time, you're going to have to slow down to the car speed. That's just the way the world works, right? So if you wait too long, all of your energy is going to be here in a big spike. And all of these G-forces and things that you're going to see are just way too high for your body to handle. So first thing, belts. To me, I'm a belt guy. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you've got your belts mounted as close as possible. In a cup car today, you've got belts mounted inside of the seat. Indy cars, Formula One, they all do the same thing. They have all the belts mounted inside the seat. Your lap belt is usually between 11 and 13 inches from side to side, or, each side is about 11 to 12 inches. The shoulder belts are mounted right here at your shoulders. Your crotch belts, same thing, mounted as close as we can. There's less stretch, and it's easier to control the occupant when you use the shorter belts. And when you're looking at especially lap belts, if you're going through a seat, remember that the lap belts are going to move, right? You just saw that dummy move like 6 to 8 inches forward. So as he's going forward, your lap belts need to be able to go forward with that pelvis and then come back without having like the side of the seat for the belts to run into. You don't want to have the belts cut on anything. We don't need any more Dale Earnhardt deals on Sunday afternoon, right? So the idea here, the way I work on this is, I want to take and slow the pelvis down as quickly as possible, and then rotate the torso over the top of the pelvis. This method has worked fantastic over the last 25 years. This is exactly what we came to NASCAR with, NHRA, sprint cars. I mean, everywhere I go, this is exactly what I preach. Get the pelvis as tight in the car as you can, with the stiffest webbings that you can, and correctly mounted. And then you can use different webbings in the shoulders, and you'll see later some of my seat belts. I'm controlling this torso movement through different elongation rates in the upper and the lower sections of the shoulder belts in order to get that ride down effect, which will actually help the head and neck restraint also. As far as the lap belt zones go, what you're looking for is the center of the occupant's hip. when you're looking at your race car, it should be you in the race car, that whoever's going to drive the thing, and put the seat in the car the way you like it, and then mount your seat belts, because there's no other way to know where your hip is going to be before you mount your seat. So mount your seat, find your anchorage points, basically 45 to 65 degrees below horizontal for the lap, coming down at this angle right here. Okay. On the shoulder belts, you're going to do basically horizontal to the top of your shoulder, or these days, the top of your head restraint, either Hans or hybrid, and 10 to 10 degrees down. I kind of like about 5 degrees down, but 10 is fine. The only thing that happens with the increased angle down is, as you go forward, you're going to put more spine load straight down when you go down with your shoulder belts, right? In the past, we've had a lot of like NHRA would mount their belts 4 inches below the shoulder. You'd be down in this area. The unfortunate part about that is that as you go forward, it puts a huge component of load straight down your back, and you'll end up seeing injury in this bottom section of your back, bottom to middle area. So when you see guys come out of cars and they've L2s and that sort of thing, compression fractures, that's one of the places that we look first, is how are their shoulder belts mounted, and then also what is your seat ramp angle on the front. So what we've done in the last 15 years, 20 years here, I guess, we've gone to 6 and 7 points sub belts. What happens with the 6 and 7 point is we from the 5 point, from the original 5, right? You had the original 5, you got a single strap between your legs. That's a negative G strap. When you flip upside down, it keeps the lap belt buckled down, so that when you're not going to raise up in the seat. A lot of cars don't have a lot of headroom. You want to be kept down in the seat. So in drag cars in 2007, when we did the Eric Medlin project, I installed the first set of 7 points in a fuel funny car. It was later mandated after we did our first race, because the officials saw that it was definitely a benefit. So the way to find your 6 and 7 point mounts is your center strap is directly on your chest line. So you'd put a straight edge right down through the front of your chest, intersect the bottom of the seat, and basically you're going to mount your 5 points somewhere in this zone, right? A lot of people would go back 20 degrees. It's kind of a tough deal, because if you're only running a 5 point, you're going to run into that pretty heavily with your groin. Once you add the 6 points, which is the other 2 points underneath your butt, here and here, then you can you're adding 2 to the other side. You're going to wrap the pelvis, right? So now in any direction that you go, you're going to get restriction of motion quicker than just with a single 5 point. And that's the benefit of using a 7 point, is now you've really cradled that pelvis, and you've got really good control on how far that pelvis can really move. When you mount it, there's a new rule in this year in NHRA for top sportsman and top dragster. A lot of those cars don't actually have the mounts in the cars to mount the 6 points correctly. So if you need help on that, I'm definitely always available. The key point is to try and get that 6 point going out to the outside and basically crossing the center of your butt bone as it goes underneath your butt. You should be sitting on these restraints, and they should be coming out of the seat on a flat plane so that you can sit on them, right? But they definitely should be coming outboard to the outside. Sometimes in dragsters, I'll use the outboard lap anchors, the front side of the outboard lap anchors, because there's nothing else to use. Or in a pro stock, pro mod car, sometimes we'll add mounts. If you've got a Haas, a Bickel, RJ car, they normally come with those mounts already installed, so you can just use their installation. So really, this is basically that combination.
Let me stop you.
Yep.
Stop you right here, Trevor.
Mhm.
All the stuff you're telling, and again, going back to when we saw Brad's crash for basically thinking I'm Superman. Let me jump in here. I'm good. It's got a good seat, you know, all this kind of stuff, but it don't fit you right. With the different associations that are listing, how would you coach them up about when you have the off season, you know, either rule book changes or, you know, safety improvements that they want to make? Where do you go to get that kind of information? Is your company the only company that can give it to you? I mean, you're right now saying, you know, you call me, I'll tell you how to do this, how to do that.
Right. So
Because in the beginning, the construction is got to be, I think, the key to winding with a successful outcome is starting correctly to get it all tied in, right?
yeah, absolutely. The best place to work for me is with the sanctioning bodies and with the chassis manufacturers. And the chassis manufacturers can get a lot of this information, in fact, all this information from SFI also. SFI has a very good library, and on their website, they have a document that shows how to mount 6 points and 5 points and shoulder belts and all of these things. It's a document that we as an industry, seatbelt industry, wrote a number of years ago. And quite frankly, I actually use the document as my instruction book right now for my seatbelts, because it does work really well like that. So there are a number of places that people can go, sanctioning bodies and chassis builders and racers themselves. The information definitely is out there.
And Brad, real quick, with the experience you've had, and again, heaven forbid how many different types of series of race cars you have driven in your life. Since that crash out there in California, you know, have you ever said no to getting inside of a race car at that point if you felt like it doesn't fit you correctly? I mean, have you walked away from opportunities to drive something until they get it the way it needs to be?
You're on mute, Brad.
I got it. Now am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah. In recent years, I've gone back and driven the sprint cars a couple times. This past year, I ran Las Vegas in a winged pavement sprint car, which is, in my opinion, is probably the most wicked race car you can drive. They're locked down. They run 150, 160 miles an hour on a 3/8 to a half mile. And when I got in the car originally, it was not comfortable. I took probably 3 or 4 laps, got out of the car, came back in, and it took probably 2.5, 3 hours to get that seat. Even though it's only got 4 bolts holding it in, it took that long to get me comfortable in the car. And I went from running about a second off of the pace to being in the top 3 qualifiers. So comfort is a big thing with me, but being safe is even bigger. And that gives you a mindset of you're indestructible when you're in the car that good.
Yeah, that's a seat that we actually poured an insert for here in Concord before he loaded it up on the plane and brought it with him to mount into the car in Vegas. Yeah. So there are ways to get it done if you actually want to use your own stuff. I mean, if you're renting a car or whatever, it is highly advantageous to bring your own things and make sure that you fit in those seats, you know. So a couple of quick things, polyester versus nylon. This discussion isn't all that big anymore. Most manufacturers have gone to polyester webbings instead of nylon webbings. And here's why. The energy absorption of a polyester webbing is much, much higher than nylon. Nylon it has a huge amount of elongation in it, and it really it stretches, and then it ramps up at the end. Whereas the polyester, it stretches, yes, but a lot less elongation, and it's taking a lot more load out of the system as it's stretching. So always go for the polyester restraints. And I wanted to touch base on SFI standards for seatbelts here, because there has been some changes over the winter, and just to let you know what the differences are. So basically 16.1 is your base restraint that's most common everywhere, allowed in most places for sure. 16.2 is a driver restraint. It's meant for young drivers, so it's got less loading. 16.5 is the original NASCAR standard that we added traceability and environmental testing to the standard right after Earnhardt, because we could see there was some things that we needed to improve on as an industry. So then 16.6 came about in about, believe it was 2017, 18, don't quote me on that exactly, but in that era, NASCAR did a lot more testing and decided to go to a full 7-point seat belt mounted inside the seats and much, much stronger seat belts. The biggest difference is in the testing of each of the individual components for the seatbelt system. In the others, 16.5 and 16.1 and 2, you don't test each individual component. You only test it as a assembly, or you'll test your webbings or your abrasion in 16.5, but you never actually do a pull test on just the lap belt or just the shoulder belt. So, and now in the last few weeks here, we've come up with 16.7, which is basically a 16.6 belt, which is allowed to be used in a lay down car like an Indy car. If you run with a lay down car with a 5-point, the center 5-point, Dr. Terry Trammell has found that it raises the lumbar spine loads. And since there's so many injuries in that area in Indy cars, he doesn't like running the center negative G belt. So for that, we still want to have the better belts because they're a lot stronger belts and a lot less elongation. So we've made up a new standard called 16.6. And I'll just go through the differences here really quick. I won't try and spend a lot of time on these, but as you can see, the pull loads on the 16.1 and 16.5, 6, and 7 are all the same. It's not the overall load that we're looking to increase. It's more of the adding loads here for the webbing and for the anti-submarine straps, which really are lightly loaded in a 16.1 belt versus a test for a 16.5 or 6. In 16.1, you can re-web a belt. In 16.5, 6, and 7, you can't. You got to replace them. And then in we added microslip. Microslip is actually a really interesting test, and it really shows how well your adjuster works with your webbing that you've chosen. So all webbings don't work with all adjusters, and that's one of the big mistakes that a lot of manufacturers make, is they try to just use random pieces, and you'll show up in microslip. What it does is it's the adjuster is set on a table and it's shaken, the table's shaking, and there's a weight on the webbing that goes over the top of the edge of the table. It's turned on and left overnight. And basically you're allowed 1 inch of slippage back through that adjuster. Everything that I do, I just go to 0, because when you're driving a race car, you don't need to be 20 laps into a run and have your adjuster being loosened every time you go into a corner, every time you load the thing, every time the vibrations hit. You will see what microslip is testing for in that time period in your car, right? So to me, it's a direct correlation of how stiff or steady you are with your belt loads during the race is the microslip. Sorry, I may not have explained that very well, but anyway, call me later. So then the other stuff here is what we talked about before. 16.6, we added the individual shoulder belt, or the individual loads. Shoulder belts got to be 3,500 pounds of load. Lap belts, 3,000 pounds of load. This one's really important because, like in a 16.1, you don't have hardly any load on a 16.1 test on a negative G belt, but in the 16.6 and 7 test, now you got 4,000 pounds of load to deal with. That's a huge amount. That's over the lap belt or the shoulder belt. And then same thing with the latch. We do instead of just allowing any buckle through, you got to be able to pull 4,000 pounds through the buckle. So basically that's the systems that we do. What I've done at ESS is I spent the last year basically doing 250 SKUs of every different type of seat belt that I can imagine. We've got cam locks, latch and links, ratchets, 5, 6, 7, 9-point belts, and both 2 and 3 inch webbing. So we can basically, we've got a set of seat belts for everything that is out there that needs seat belts for sure. Here's a latch and link. One of my things about the latch and link is I'm using forged adjusters, or I'm sorry, forged links, so that they're a lot shorter. It makes a very small buckle package here. You can see that even with the 5-point attached, the whole thing doesn't come past the leather on the buckle. Always using aluminum adjusters. I don't like steel roller adjusters. I don't think they adjust, so I don't even offer them. We offer a latch and link and a new 6-point, so you can have the benefit of the 6-point and the 7-point in a latch and link if you're willing to use it. I find a lot of the sprint car guys aren't all that willing to use it, but I think it's a benefit for sure. Ratchets, we do a full line of the traditional ratchets, the 2-inch and 3-inch in this style, and then I've got a new style, an integrated handle style here that comes in a 3-inch only right now. And then we come into our cam locks. So we've got this one's got a double pull down where the adjuster is here in the tongue that goes into the buckle. It's a pretty simple set of seatbelts to make. It's easy to put into cars. This is kind of your off-the-shelf easy set of seatbelts to put in pretty much anything from your UTV to your Sportsman to your GT3, Porsche, pretty much anything. We also came up with a new 7-point small tongue. It's based off of a small tongue here going in. So this is the smallest piece of hardware. And then what we're doing is using 1-inch links going to the 6 points, the 2 outside belts. And so this allows it to turn to the inside of your legs to make it way more comfortable than just coming down with a flat V coming in from that center. Here's our 7-point formula cam locks. The formula style have these loops on the laps, and you'll run your formula straps up through and lock them into your shoulder belts. And then to make that a 7-point, you just go back and use the original 5-point on the center. We can do these in pull-ups, pull-downs, custom links, 2, 3 shoulders. And here's a set of similar type of thing for an Indy car. One of the neat parts that we're doing with the 16, 6, and 7 belts is now we're allowed to use different materials for the crotch belts. And in our 16-1 belts, this piece of webbing right here is polyester. It's a heavyweight polyester. But in our 16-6 and 7 belts, this is a Kevlar material because it elongates a lot less. You can take your elongation rate down to almost 1% or less versus like a 7 or 8% elongation rate here in the crotch. And again, you're trying to control that pelvis, so any reduction in stretch or movement is going to be helpful. We even do EAA belts. This is actually a set of belts I put into this car or this airplane about a year ago, and they crashed within a few months. And the driver did survive. One of the things in the experimental world is most people will only do like a 4-point or just a lap belt. And me and a gentleman by the name of Butch Stevens have been working with the FAA and EAA for years and getting more and more people into the 5 points. And it's really, really helped in that world. So I'm going to just touch on a little bit of the a seat system now. Basically, what we found is stiffen everything up, right? So imagine this is the side of your seat. You got a headrest, you got a shoulder, rib, leg support. All this is extremely stiff. And now what we do is we line it with the proper 45.2 foams in order to ride down the energy of the impact. And this is a blast from the past with Brad right here. This is kind of where Brad and I met. This is 2002, right after that wreck that he had. He put together a sprint car, and he wanted to have the safest stuff that we could come up with. And as you can see from this, you've got a strong shouldered LaJoie seat. It's got a rib support in here, strong pelvis, knee bolsters. He's got a set of polyester, heavyweight polyester belts in there. with side nets, along with the headrest in the car. And here's a front view of it. Same thing. You can see how tight he is in the headrest. And again, this is 2002. I mean, we're sitting at 2025, and this looks like a good, really good system for today. So one of the things that I'm most proud of, I guess, in my career here is head restraints. And I've been working on new head restraints. My hybrids and my Hans development basically ended with my last job. So now I've developed a new head restraint that's passed the SFI 38.1 standard a few weeks ago, which is fantastic. It's something that I'm very proud of. And it'll be coming out in, well, I'm hoping over the next couple months. But basically, I'm working on the patents right now. And as soon as my patent attorney allows me to show the thing, I will. So get ready for that. It's definitely coming. Smaller, easier to use, lighter weight. I mean, just a natural progression of head restraints. So this is a Eric Bedlin project. Is something that I worked on back in 2007 with late Chris Van Gilder and Dr. John Melvin. It was a kind of a revolutionary thing that we did after Eric died in a practice accident in Gainesville. And we did an SAE Motorsports paper with it. And really it started with us in the test lab doing testing on different foams and things. Went to 2018, we redid the study with actual parts that were in cars. And this is a linear accelerator that we used at a different lab, but basically had the same pulse as the previous one. So we were able to compare our data. And the important thing to note here is in a funny car or a top fuel dragster, you got tire shake. Other cars don't have that. They have, especially like a funny car, you're sitting on top of the rear end. So if a tire blows or something becomes imbalanced, you're going to get a lot of shake from the tires. So what we tried to do is we tried to pick foams that would be consistent across multiple impacts. So you can see down here that's the light blue foam right here. The first hit is good. The second hit is very consistent, and the third hit is following right along. Whereas the purple line, magenta line here, it starts off real good, but in the second hit, it loses a lot of its energy absorption characteristics, right? So the more times you hit it, it's going to get worse. Same thing with the hick. It kind of follows the same deal. So this is the study that we did in 2018 and verified off of actual head pads that were in cars at the time. So again, same kind of thing. You're trying to do 3 hits, trying to keep it as low as possible. All of these are a combination of different foams that I now use in our headrest that I make. And I've tried to help out NHRA with going back and basically revisiting this and showing them, look, this is what we did to the headrests and head pads. And in the paper, it notes that the head surround pads were increased in thickness and height while maintaining a flat area of helmet contact on both sides of the head. It was determined that the head needed to be as close as possible to the head surrounds to maintain maximum effectiveness. Now, the next sentence is most important for most of the drivers. It's right here. It's the issue with having the head touching the head surround in a drag car is that it shakes so much and you won't be able to see. So we took a combination of, here's what we do in other places, because we definitely have places where we stuff the helmet directly into the head pad and you're always touching it, to where we in NHRA top fuel funny cars and dragsters, we leave a little bit of an air gap. So this is just a quick test of 70 Gs sideways. And what I wanted to show here is how much you're actually compressing that foam. I'm going to try and follow along here. I'm going to move it over. You start out with 4 inches of yellow foam. That's the really stiff stuff, 45-2. And look how he crushes that in a 70 G side impact. So imagine if you don't have that foam in there. This dummy, the data on this all was very, very good. So this is what NASCAR has been doing for years, is right here. On a cup car, obviously you have a lot of room to the right-hand side, so you just add more foam. Unfortunately, in a funny car, in top fuel dragster, you don't have that pleasure. So what we did is we cut the cages off of the funny cars and made them more straight up so that we could get more width of foam in here. One of the problems that's happened over the last few years is that, as you can see, these are headrests that are in cars, but you're exposing all these bars. See all the steel in here? Each one of these cages has steel showing to the driver's helmet when you're bouncing around in that cage. So that's one of the biggest things that we wanted to try and address, is get the right amounts of foam in these cages and don't allow the helmet to see that steel. Here's a head surround that is to the 2025 NHRA standards. This, you can see that there's even on the top here, it's smooth from front to back. There's nothing for that helmet to catch on. There's comfort layers here, and then the solid 45-2 layers in the back, and it goes all the way from the bottom straight to the top. No gaps. You can't see any steel. There's very good coverage on these. And I just wanted to basically bring this up, that NHRA, because they came up with these a discussion with the drivers last November, at least one driver, Ron Capps, actually went back to his car. Him and Guido looked at what they had. I talked to him multiple times, and basically they were proactive in this whole thing and embraced the changes. And because of it, he had a wreck a few weeks ago that was almost exactly like John Force's wreck the previous year, and he got out and walked away. And when I say almost exactly, the two cars, the Force car and the Ron Capps' car, both are sponsored by Simpson. When I worked for Simpson, we put them in the same exact set of seatbelts. We put them in the same head restraint. We put them in the same helmet. I mean, everything except for the head padding was the same in the two cars. The outcome was completely different. So that just shows you that little thing. It's always the little thing, right? That catches you out. But so anyway, moving on. I know that my time is short, and I probably have some questions, but I got to where I wanted to be. So I appreciate you all for hanging with me, and I hope I didn't bore you to death.
I find it fascinating. I also find it interesting that as we go through today's safety in NASCAR, and I'm sure in all the other series that are really watching to take care of their competitors, that it's a work in progress. And don't feel like somebody is getting ready to come down on you when they come in there and say, hey, you got this area that your hand can get to inside this roll cage.
Mm-hmm.
You need to put padding on it. Well, that's not, I mean, it's never been a problem, but it could be. I mean, that's where somebody's looking out for you because you've missed it somewhere along the way and not realizing if you can touch it, then go back to the very beginning when we got to talking about it. I mean, Brad, how many bars did you hit that time when you went out of there?
Well,
Every one of
that
them?
particular one wasn't that as bad as one just before that when I broke my arm. I actually had a USAC official come over to me and say, hey, Brad, I wish you had moved this one knob. It was a platform knob for the rear coilovers. And I didn't move it, because it was easy for me to reach. And when we crashed, my wrist hit it and broke my arm. But it was another one of them attention getters that when someone walks up to you and asks you, about something in your car that's safe or not safe, you need to listen.
Well, I mean, we got some comments from that. Brad Neve, crash restraint specialist here. Thank you, Trevor and Brad. Very informative. And Tom Denberg, a brilliant presentation. And the thing is, Trevor, knowing you all the years I've known you, you can see the passion. This is not something that you just kind of do, haphazardly or whatever. You've been committed to trying to, protect drivers, protect your friends. Brad, you've been in the sport a long time and you understand, you've seen too many folks get, permanently injured, and you've also lost friends. So, we've got to realize that your company is just one more step in a direction. No matter who the sanctioning body is, you're there. If you'll raise your hand, we'll come help you make your series more safer for your competitors.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Brilliant presentation, Trevor. Always a pleasure to have you. I think it's the first time you're presenting with us. I've seen many of your
Yes.
presentation at some of the ICMS events, but brilliant job, and thank you very much. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the EPARTRADE platform, distributed through our newsletters, social media channels. In the meantime, we pushed actually ESS products back on the homepage of EPARTRADE, so go to epartrade.com for more information and updates. Next webinar will be on engines with JNS machines. So again, thank you very much and goodbye.
Real quick, I gotta say one thing, Francis, before we jump off
Of
here.
course.
Brad,
Yes.
I'll go to lunch. You go to lunch with me. I'll even buy. We'll bring Trevor along with us. How about that?
Anytime, buddy. Anytime. Just give me a call.
All right. We need to get together and talk.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you very
Thank
much. I
you.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it, everybody.
Guys.
Thank you.
Trevor,
Thank
I'm
you,
proud to
Jeff.
have you on today, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brad.
EPARTRADE is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series. Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
Where will you find Ferrea racing components, circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop? In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Ferrea Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crowder Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crowder Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crowder Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crowder, victory is within your reach.
At SeaTech, we're on a mission to lead the storage industry through innovative custom-built solutions that meet every challenge head-on. Designed for versatility, whether in a commercial setting or at home, we create high-quality, durable products that stand the test of time. SeaTech, engineering and innovation.